Welcome back, everybody, to Franchisors.com. Thank you all so much for joining us once again. To my right, I have somebody who I've really grown to respect quite a bit, and obviously I've learned quite a bit from him over the years. Somebody who, I have a lot of mentors in this space, but I'm really, really excited to have Jeff Dudan from Dudan Brands on the show here. Thanks so much for having us, man.
Good to see you, Zach.
Yeah, well, this is
Glad
going
to
to
be here.
This is going to be really, really fun. You have a really diverse background here, especially within franchising. You've had your time with Advantaclean, and now you're doing some other things now. Up behind us, we have Rockbox and we have Mobot and some others to follow, I'm sure. But would love to just start by, because you do have such an awesome background with a lot of different brands. Would just be curious, when you were first getting into the saddle with Mobot and with Rockbox, and even back in the day with Advantaclean, what department did you really decide, I need to build this first in order to be successful?
Well, great question. Well, first of all, thank you for coming here. It's great to have you in North Carolina.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, we travel around the circuit. We see each other out on the road, but it's always good when you can have people into your home and come to see you. And I think it just deepens the relationship. So I appreciate you coming here.
No problem.
And so as far as building out brands, with the brands that I'm getting involved with now, first thing I look for is management team. Do they have a management team? And you have to really assess what are the needs. There's some basic pillars to franchising, and whether it's a Dunkin' brand or a service cleaning brand, there's a lot of similarities that are behind the scenes there. So marketing is always going to be something that's going to be, marketing leads the way. Marketing is critical. And you've got to have, without marketing, there is no brand. And then franchise development. You've got to be able to, there is no brand without selling and awarding franchises and finding great people to join you.
Sure.
And then you've got operations and you've got technology. So those are really kind of the pillars of it. And it's hard to say chicken or egg, what comes first, right? Yeah. But I think at the end of the day, if you think about great companies, right, the first thing they know is they know who their customer is. So from a marketing perspective and an operations perspective, what is the promise that we have? What problems do we solve? And if we want to go out and get customers, can we find them?
Right.
Do we know what they look like? Do we know what problems we solve for them? And then operationally, can we fulfill that promise? So I'm going to look for those two areas because, quite frankly, I don't want to award franchises to people in a company that's not solid. So I really look to make sure the underpinnings of the concept are good. I look at the origin story. I look at the founders and see what roles everybody going to play. So you really have to build the fundamentals of the business first. Make sure that everything is ready to go before you start bringing in franchise owners, because franchising is about having a proven model. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
Awesome. And when you do bring in those franchise owners for the first time, especially when you're a young brand, you had the opportunity to do it very successfully with Advantaclean, and now you're kind of returning back again to the emerging brand aspects of things. And I know you have a really awesome vantage point, because I think that you probably learned a lot from your first experience getting into franchising. Is there anything that you think would, any advice that you can give for people in terms of how to deal with those first franchisees? Anything that you learned from your first time going through that you think people would benefit from hearing?
First of all, it's the vibe that builds the tribe. So you've got to have the right vibe. So it's critically important that people have the right value set coming in, and they're aligned with the values, not only with your values, whatever the company's values are, but the values that are going to make them successful. And if you think about different companies, like Zappos is going to have, you're buying shoes online. That's very fun. So they're going to have fun types of values. Advantaclean's values were cares, community, accountability, respect, excellence, and service, because we dealt with people's worst day. Right. So we had to have people that were going out there and that were going to really care about what was going on out there. So getting your values right is critically important to match the brand and to attract the right kind of people to it. So getting your first 5, 10, 15, 20 franchise owners that are in alignment with your values is critically important. Because what's going to happen is, and there's a story I tell as I teach people about franchise development. Have you ever been mahi fishing? Okay, so mahi fishing, right? You go out into the ocean and you start with little little baits to attract the bait fish.
Sure.
And then ultimately the mahi come in. And when you get a mahi on the hook, you don't pull them out, you keep them behind the boat in the water because they kind of flash signals and they'll bring the other mahi in so that now you can catch all the mahi. It's no different in franchise development.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to get those first franchise owners in, and they have to tell everybody that it's okay to come to this brand. So the relationship time that you invest with them has to be heavy. You've got to build relationship equity with these people so that over time they know what to expect from you. And that's really critical. So the first franchise owners are going to be your biggest influencers and your greatest advocates. And it's really important that they're successful.
Absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And I think that, because you have all this experience in franchise sales, I think that it would be really helpful for some people to understand. Are there any tools that you've used over the years across the various businesses that you've been involved in that you feel have really helped you to differentiate your brands from others in the space at all?
Specifically in franchise development?
Yeah.
So in franchise development, it's one of the most critical things is speed to lead. Mm-hmm. You've got to be able to, there's some metric that says that if you get to a lead within 30 minutes, you have a 10 times better chance of closing it. And I'm sure, 67% of all statistics are made up, right? And that's probably one of them. However, speed to lead does matter. Mm-hmm. And so we've developed a tool like FranFunnel is a great tool for that. We use a CRM called FranPower so that all of our leads come immediately in there. Then we can not only email them out of our system, but use FranFunnel to immediately text them. Mm-hmm. And then our salespeople need to be hitting that and calling those people right away, and really giving them what we've come up with is kind of a 12-minute call. Mm-hmm. It's very structured, and at the end of it, is there interest in moving forward with it? So it really is about getting to those people quickly, explaining to them what you offer and what you do, getting a sense of why they're looking to be in a business right now, and maybe why Rockbox or why Mobot, some of the brands that I'm working with right now, sure. and then connecting up and seeing, because getting to a no quickly is as important as trying to chase a yes for 5, 6, or 7.
Maybe
minutes,
is the worst answer you can hear.
Right.
It's having to wait that long, and I didn't even ask you to talk about that, so thank you, I appreciate it. And I think that there are a lot of tools that really help people out mm-hmm. on the franchise development side, that because there are a lot of brands, obviously. I mean, you hear a lot of the statistics that FranData, who happens to be one of our sponsors, talks about this all the time, is that they have all these metrics that show that there's 3,800 brands in this space right now, and I think it's really, really hard because there aren't, there's not as many people that are as interested in franchising. The economy's really good, and
That's
so
right.
you kind of have to figure out ways to differentiate yourself, and it seems like you guys have definitely done that. Now I know, I know in addition to that, there are probably some things that you've done, some tips and tricks on differentiating on the product and service side as well over the years. I know that you've been involved in different businesses that are in different industries, but is there anything in particular that, is an overarching theme among all of those?
Well, on the, generally when I look at a brand, there needs to be a competitive advantage. Mm-hmm. There needs to be something that the brand does exceptionally well, whether that and it always has to do with the customer, right?
Sure.
So, how quickly can customers be educated? How quickly is the process where they can get in touch with somebody that can start solving their problem for them? So
sure.
One of the things that we did with Advantaclean, and then I'm a big proponent of, is a customer contact center. Mm-hmm. And it's a call center in some brands, and other brands it might be somebody answering text chats or engaging in some of these other sure. ways that are happening right now. But the ability to immediately disintermediate any intermediaries between you and the customer, meaning you, the brand, mm-hmm. the brand collectively, mm-hmm. and just help them start investing time in the brand so that can be converted to either an appointment or a customer. So a competitive advantage in terms of really being able to help the customer quickly is something. And then, I think on the brand side specifically, special revenue items. One of the things we have to do as a franchisor is to constantly find ways for our franchise owners to make more money. For example, I know we see some of the leveraged nutrition products that are behind us here. So Rockbox has a sister company that provides supplementation that goes along with all of our offerings. So if you mm-hmm. come in for a 6-week challenge weight loss or a 28-day program or anything like that, we also have complementary supplements, because they're going to say, like, what do I take with this? So our franchise owners benefit tremendously from having the supplementation to go along with the prescribed workouts or routines that they're signing up for. So things like that are critical.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things that I often find, especially sometimes in the fitness space too, is that people kind of pigeonhole themselves into doing one thing, and having that secondary or upsell opportunity for them is really important to help the franchisees, make more money and to be more profitable. And that kind of brings me to my next question, which is something that I know I've actually heard you speak about before, is, unit economics and, how you guys have measured that. And I think it would be helpful for people to understand which metrics you think are important. I think there are many, and in particular, anything that you think so.
So at the top of the house, happy and profitable. Because franchise owners will be excited and they will be happy for a time as they're building their business, but within a certain amount of time, they have to be profitable. So those are the two at the top of the house. And there's various tools that you can do to gauge how happy they are. Obviously, doing a good job with your chart of accounts and being able to, today it is possible to get financial statements that can be benchmarked and help people be more profitable. So if you can get all the data in, you can say, hey, your franchise is 3% higher on labor than the average. So let's talk about that. So it's constantly, it's constantly iterating to help people become better business owners and to make more money. But interestingly enough, there's people join a tribe. So they also want the professional development, but they also want personal development. So you really have to serve both sides of the personality. You got to serve the business side, and you got to help them understand how to fine tune their business and how to grow top line and bottom line year after year after year. But they're also looking for, like, how happy am I? What have I learned? What did I learn that I wouldn't have learned if I wasn't connected with these people and a part of this brand?
Awesome. And I think that, with unit economics, as I know I've actually heard you say in many panels, I think that it's really important to ensure that your folks are making money, and there's a lot of different tools that you can use to do that. But I think that before they even get there, it's really, really, do you find that there's any really, I guess, a silver bullet, so to speak, in terms of, where you find the best people to actually be proficient in your brand? Is there any, from a franchise lead standpoint, is there anything that you can see? Maybe it's through portals, maybe it's through brokers, maybe it's through PR. I mean, have you used all of them in the past, and is there anything that's been more successful to you as opposed to others?
So we will use brokers where it makes sense, and that's an avenue. As you said, there are only so many franchise deals out there, and brokers serve a very important process in educating clients and steering them in the direction possibly of some alternatives that may be really good for them. But we're also scrappy for deals. Yeah. So we will use inbound strategies where we educate online. We will use paid social. We will use SEO. We will use just straight up social posts, and we will work our tribe extremely hard. So whoever the franchisees and their customers are that are satisfied with the brand, those are groups where we're going to really work hard to focus on, to say, hey, if this works for you in your yard and you're excited about having a robot cutting your grass, maybe you'd like to be somebody that helps robots cut grass. Right. So there's the lead sources, right? And it's very competitive, and it's always changing, and you have to pay attention very carefully to it. But what are you looking for when somebody walks in the door, you engage with people? So there's just a few things, and one, I would say, intellectual humility, right? There's one of the worst personality conversations is ignorance and arrogance, right? I really don't know a lot, but I'm sure I'm right. And in franchising, it's about following a plan, because there's been one laid out for you. So, we say, don't have any genius attacks for the first 12 months. Follow the plan. Learn. I like that. Yeah. Follow the plan. Learn everything about this business. Become an expert in this business, right? So intellectual humility, meaning, look, I understand that I am a lifelong learner. I am here to learn things. And if I pay attention and I'm humble about it, then people will teach me. The second thing is grit and perseverance. Like, it's very hard to look into somebody's heart and know how bad they want it. And I think that comes down to understanding in the sales process, like their why.
Mm-hmm.
Why do they want to do this business? What problem are they trying to solve? And if you get somebody that's intellectually humble and they want to make this work in the worst way, you can't play God, because you can't tell, how somebody's likely to react when they come in. But if you can identify those two things, and the third thing I got from Charlie Chase, who's a brilliant franchisor,
Yes.
is you want to look for people that can resolve conflicts in a healthy manner. Because invariably, business is full contact. Not just Rockbox, because it's a fight club, right?
Yeah.
But all
right.
business is full contact.
Right.
And you're fighting every day for profit and for leads and whatnot. And invariably, there's going to be stress. Mm-hmm. So how does that franchise owner react? And more importantly, as a franchisor, how do you react? Because I tell our team that our job is to take the stress from the franchise owners. Mm-hmm. I mean, they're in business. They've invested a lot, if not all of their money. They've just got married to you for a 10-year term with 2 5-year renewals.
Right.
And they're trying to solve a college education, or they're trying to solve a retirement issue, or these types of things. They're going to get under stress, and it's our job to have the intellectual humility and to be able to help teach them how to resolve those things in a healthy manner. So you can never bite back as a franchisor.
No, absolutely. And I think that, you said a lot of great stuff about a lot of, some of the profiles that you look for. And,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot of different people, that are going to be within a particular franchise brand, no matter what it does, whether it's, having robots cut lawns or boxing or restoration or whatever it may be. And I think that the number one thing that a lot of people struggle with is the relationship between the franchisee and the franchisor. And I guess for people out there, are there any tools that you used, like a certain type of committee or an FAC or something like that you really felt made a difference for you guys and the many brands you've been a part of?
There obviously are.
Yeah.
But leadership always starts at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And your name will travel farther, than you ever do. Mm-hmm. And your people have to know what to expect and what's expected in every engagement mm-hmm. with the franchise owners.
Sure.
Franchise advisory councils are very valuable because they allow issues to bubble up. As long as the franchise advisory council understands that if it's a Tuesday meeting, that the changes aren't going in on Wednesday.
Right. That
they're going to be contemplated as part mm-hmm. of a broader strategy. There's going to be some testing. When you roll something out to a new franchise, I don't remember who shared this with me, but try something new with your very best franchise or corporate location. And then if it works there, go 1 to 5, 5 to 20, and then 20 to everybody. So those are tools. You got to have disciplines. You can't, providing leadership to a large franchise network. Remember, these are all business owners, and some of them might be going through a graduation, or some of them might be going through these other things. And you can't be herky-jerky about the way you roll things out. You have to telegraph what's coming. You have to prepare them, mm-hmm. and then you have to implement with lots of training and lots of support, and still be ready for the people that weren't ready. And that's just the way it is, and that's part of our job.
Yeah, and I think that when you do have when you do have established leaders, such as yourself, I think that all starts with the culture that you're instilling. And I think that you mentioned a couple different things that I think have been the cornerstones of all of your brands, not just the one that you started in franchising with. And I think that that's one thing that a lot of emerging brands also struggle with, is trying to figure out who they are and how to establish their identity. Is there any strategies that you had in terms of ingraining the culture that you've had across all of your other brands, within not only the people at the corporate office, but also the franchisees and their employees too? Is there anything that you feel helped you guys to do that?
Well, you have to, I'd like to almost think about that for a minute, but you just have to constantly be speaking a clear future into existence. Mm-hmm. So whatever it is that matters to your brand, whatever it is that's most important, it constantly needs to be falling out of your mouth as a leader, mm-hmm. because then it will fall out of the mouths of your people that are engaging with your franchise owners, and then you will hear them sharing that with their employees. So communication, a good marketing communication strategy mm-hmm. is really important, and it's hard to do.
Right.
Because as you're a small emerging brand, it's a very familial. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of one-off conversations going on at all different levels. So as you grow, getting the communication strategy to where it's a little bit more disciplined and kind of reeling it back in a little bit and making sure that information's not coming, out of order,
Sure.
or from places that it shouldn't come in. But I think at the end of the day, you asked, leaders have to be intentional about building their culture.
Mm-hmm.
One of my greatest, or one of the best things I've learned is this concept of discretionary effort. Have you ever heard it? Are you familiar with it?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So, if this is the least people can do to keep their job,
Mm-hmm.
the minimum, and this is the very best way up here that they can do if they either could ever possibly do.
Mm-hmm.
The difference that people will give you by their own will and their own choice is discretionary. Great teams are not made of mediocre effort. We all have the right to be mediocre.
Right.
Right. But great things happen when you have teams built around discretionary effort. So how do you do that? Well, you treat people. One of the things that we always did at our discovery days was everybody would eat, including the call center. We'd have 45 people in there, even if we had 2 prospects. It's a little bit expensive, but what do you have people over to the house and some people don't get to eat?
Yeah, sure.
Right. So everybody eats together. Everybody has, people aren't micromanaged, but, they're measured and they're trained and they're led, but their interactions are not, especially in the discovery day process, people get to spend time interacting authentically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you build an intentional culture and you build an authentic culture and you're true to that, people come in from corporate America and they say at the end of the day, they're like, I can tell that people like being here. I can tell that they're really here to help us grow as a franchise owner.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing I'm worried about is, are you going to award me or not? Like, that's when you know you have your culture right.
Yeah.
When you come in as the leader for 10 minutes at the beginning of the day and 10 minutes at the end of the day, and the people are just wanting to know if they're approved.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing, and it's a powerful thing, and it takes work, and it takes transparency, and you have to, your relationship equity with your staff and with your franchise owner, it's not built.
Mm-hmm.
It's built over a body of work.
Mm-hmm.
It's built over time.
Mm-hmm.
And one lie, you said you were going to do it and you didn't do it, that starts taking out of that bank. So if you want to build a great balance sheet as a leader and as an organization, that relationship equity account, you have to keep it as full as possible, because invariably when something goes wrong, right, you're going to have to dip into it and say, guys, we've always done our best, and now we have to get past this, because it's, as families grow, things happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I think that'll really be helpful for a
Good.
lot of people.
I hope so.
To transition to something that I think I'm personally interested in, I know that there are, because you have such a wealth of knowledge within the space, I think that, you do have your hands on a lot of different brands too. There are a lot of threats to the business model and franchising in particular, and I guess, is there anything that you help, is there any tools or any, strategies that you've used to help educate, your franchisees on how to deal with things of that nature? Because, it's not necessarily just within the lawn care space or the fitness space or the service space in general. It's everybody. So
yeah, when you talk about threats to your business,
mm-hmm.
you have to be paying attention. And if we wanted to take it a step further, I would say that great business owners, have a certain amount of paranoia around certain things,
mm-hmm.
because we have either been screwed into existence at some point, meaning we lost a job and we got kicked out and we didn't have a choice and we had to do something on our own.
Sure.
Or we've almost been screwed out of existence.
Sure.
By something that happened that may or may not have been our fault. So you develop, the longer you're in business, the more you are in tune to indicators that might be happening. So it could be a people thing. So paying attention to, what's the chatter in the forums mm-hmm. of the franchise network? Mm-hmm. What's the chatter in the office around the water cooler? What are people concerned about? Mm-hmm. And making sure that you have ways to diffuse that and let the pressure off and release that once in a while. Because we're tribal people.
Right.
It's very natural for us to get spun up about things. And sometimes things are hard. The economy is a little harder. It's a little, we're changing a marketing strategy. So, getting the customers might be a little bit harder. So If you're really in tune and connected with your people, you will learn to see the signals when you need to step in and exhibit some leadership. Mm-hmm. Other times it's in the numbers, right? And good business owners pay attention to their numbers. So the conversion percentage is slipping a little bit. You missed your revenue goal a little bit. And if you miss a goal, and I'm strong about this, do not compromise on your goals, but increase your actions. Mm-hmm. Increase your actions to hit that goal, because so often you come out of summer and everybody's kind of getting back to it, and now you're going towards the holidays or the end of the year.
Yeah.
And people are making excuse. Well, we're not going to hit goal this year. Well, I think that as a culturally, you need to hit your goals. You need to increase your actions, whatever you need to do to hit those things. But if there is slippage in your metrics, mm-hmm. and if your numbers aren't telling you what they're supposed to be telling you that are going to lead you to hit what you meant to hit, then you need to go right back to the people and figure out why or what's going wrong or what it is. So tools, right? Great. We use Traction, which mm-hmm. is a strategy process. So great scorecards, the ability to get real-time metrics in whatever system it is you're using or however that works. You want to do that. Tools in terms of surveys mm-hmm. and things like that. Internal surveys can be formal or they can be more informal. Employee reviews. Mm-hmm. We get really busy and we get lazy about sitting down and saying, hey, there's a few things that I've been meaning to share with you. Mm-hmm. And maybe there's a couple of things that you'd like to share with me. So I think it comes down to you understand that you can either pay for it now and do the work and put the work in, or you're going to have to fix it later, because nothing stays the same.
Right.
It is there is always turbulence. There is always waves on the ocean, and your job as a leader is to anticipate and to act and to lead. And I think what happens with emerging brands is they get into the swirl of the busy, and you get caught up in it because marketing's not going right, and we got to make this training program, and oh my gosh, how do we learn how to get franchise deals? So what happens is, and that's why I think you said 3,800 actively growing brands, 90% of those brands have 30 units or less.
Yeah.
Because you can make a business that makes money.
Yeah.
You can get 2 locations, and then usually you can find enough friends and family members to open up 5 or 10. But that's over. Then how do you run to 100 so that you're actually making money? And that's why 90% of those brands have less than 30 units, and the majority of those are going to be out of business within 12 years.
Yeah,
so
it's a high number.
So it really is. So somehow finding ways to get people with experience to help you, to mentor. If you needed to fly to California from New York because there's a mentor that was willing to spend a half a day with you, I would make the investment. Mm-hmm. Because doing it in a bubble and thinking you can figure it out, you've got to be able to see around corners. So getting good mentors, hiring the right people, these are all critical. The right advisors, the right attorneys. One of the things that we did our own legal early, and then we got with Fisher Zucker, and that really changed thank goodness we did when we did, because they really, they educated us a lot. They become an education partner. They became a sales partner for us in terms of, helping us understand, what we needed to do. So getting the right partners on board, but as importantly, getting some mentors that you're humble enough that they're willing to help you and give you those little clues, right? Because there's always things that matter that you're not going to find in a textbook, or you're not going to find in a panel. Sure. It's specific to you.
Yeah.
It's your blind spots getting in the way. It's mm-hmm. your ego getting in the way. It's things that somebody needs to hear, and somebody needs to correct or give you a different way of thinking about it.
Well, thank you for going through that. And I think that, the one thing after people hearing, after we're having a lot of people probably thinking like, wow, this guy knows a lot, but, I'm sure he had to have messed up at some point. Is there, I know that you mentioned one that you guys did your own legal on your own in the beginning. Was there anything else that you really feel like if you went back that you would change that you learned from later?
I don't think we got anything right the first time, to be honest with you. It was an unmitigated disaster really, technology rollouts, not great. We struggled up and down with franchise development and not paying close enough attention to it, or not following the trends, being a little bit lazy with that. Mm-hmm. And franchise development's interesting because if you let it go and you kill it, then it's 6 months to build a pipeline. Because if you think about it, the deals you're getting may have been in for 6, 12, 18 months in the back, and now they're ready. And so we've messed up with that. Operationally, we were always very good. And that's one thing that I look for. I mean, we're in business for 25 years. We are a great restoration light environmental contractor. We did work all over North America, hospitals, military bases. I mean, our technical people were a competitive advantage to us. Mm-hmm. So we claimed the competitive advantage in our technical expertise. We claimed the competitive advantage in our call center and being able to answer the phones and book, take 250,000 inbound phone calls and book calendars full for hundreds of locations in 37 states. So sure. Those were things we did, but it's how quickly your team can bounce and get and reorganize and not say who screwed up, because it was usually me. So if they said that, they were fine. No, but not say how, but to say, okay, this is what happened. This is what we learned. This is what we need to do. So it's really, again, it's that, and it's all hands. And there was times over the 25 years, not so much after we franchised. We franchised, it took us 9 years to franchise. So it was 15 years before franchising, really 9 years of franchising. There was times I had to look at it and say, do I just want to go out of business because the amount of money it's taking me to keep this thing going is too much? And what I did was I always looked back at my people and said, can I trust them? Are they with me? Will they do what it takes? We have to go down to Katrina after Hurricane Katrina, and we've got to make something happen because we need $500,000 in the next 90 days or whatever it is. And it comes back down to, you've got to be able to pull on your people and your resources to make the great play. Mm-hmm. And I actually have a book coming out, a book series actually called The Business Athlete.
Please talk about it.
Yeah. So in the first edition is on discernment. Mm-hmm. And how, because business is all about probabilities, right? So there's nothing's 100%. Hopefully your business isn't 0%.
Right.
It's somewhere in between. The quality of your decisions that you make is going to determine what the probability of success is for your business, and maybe the scope and the size of it. Mm-hmm. So how do you get better discernment inside of decision making as you're building a business? And when we're kids as athletes, we train and we take hitting lessons, or we learn how to do this, or we run, or we do all these types of things, whatever it is, if it's sports or if it's not sports, whatever it is, but we train at things to get better at it. Mm-hmm. And if people want to be entrepreneurial and they want to be business athletes, do they know the things that they should be training on, so that when the opportunity comes up, they have the scope of knowledge to make the best decision possible and to advance their cause or to move the chess piece on the board.
Sure.
And so that's really what that lays into. But it's really about, business today is about pace. Mm-hmm. How many days are you on the road? A bunch.
Me too.
You guys are getting after it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are working hard. You're on the road. You're doing what it takes. You could say, we're going to do this, but we'll do it as it's convenient. Well, then it takes 3 years. There's no pace to that.
Right.
So, you got to be right spiritually. You got to be right mentally. You got to be right physically. But then what are you training on? And that's what I'm going to be going through in the book, is to give people some insight as to how to prioritize what they focus on.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of things that you'll go through and they're like, I did this wrong, and this is how I learned from it, and this is how you can do that too, and it's going to be some really awesome content. Where can people find the book?
Well, it should be out. It'll be the end of the year, the first of next. So I'll have to get back to you on that. We're in the middle of it right now, but we've got about all the content laid out, and now we're just kind of into the editing phase. So I'm not exactly sure how long that's going to take.
Awesome. Well, keep us posted. We're more than happy to give people a link if they're looking for it, and I'm more than happy to connect you guys to Jeff if you have more questions and want to learn more about his experience and how he may be able to help you too. So, Jeff, thank you so much, man. This was really, really awesome. Looking forward to seeing you on the road soon, and thanks again for having us.
Great job, Zach.
Absolutely.